Hello and welcome back to Mark's House and Garden UK. It's a lovely summer's evening at the end of July. The sun is out and there's a beautiful fragrance of lilies in the air from my white garden, and I'm about to prune this formal parterre. This is one of the first jobs I did when I moved into the cottage about 3 years ago now. Now, I love the formal parterre. It's my favourite part of the garden after the wildlife pond. But interestingly, when I did a poll recently, the formal parterre got the least votes. So you obviously don't like it as much as I do. Now, this is Buxus sempervirens, or boxwood, and it can be susceptible to box blight and box tree caterpillar. So whilst I'm pruning the parterre, I'm telling you what I'm doing to avoid the risk of box blight. There are certain things you can do to reduce the risk. I've just been distracted to my right by a lovely white butterfly. I don't know if you've seen it on camera. I'm going to be telling you some of the steps I'll be taking to avoid or reduce the risk of box blight. The important thing to remember with box blight is it is a fungus, a fungal disease that's carried through moisture. There's that butterfly just there in front of us. So the first thing I've done is I've chosen to do this on a lovely warm, slightly breezy day when this area of the garden is dry, because that fungal disease can be carried on moisture. Now, I don't think I've got any of it here, but just in case there is, by doing it on a dry, warm, breezy day, you're reducing the risk of that fungal disease spreading. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to collect all the cuttings. Everything I cut off will be collected and disposed of, just in case there is any of that fungal problem in the area. Now, I'm only pruning this once a year. Some people prune their boxwood twice a year to keep it compact and tight and closely knit. I am taking exactly the opposite approach. I'm pruning it once a year, and I'm not pruning it too tightly. I'm really just going to tidy it up, give it a bit more definition, but by not pruning it too tightly and too close, I'll continue to let the air through it, and by letting the air through it, again, it will reduce the risk of that fungal infection, box blight. Now, the other thing that you can do, and this has nothing to do with pruning to reduce the risk of box blight, is water at the bottom. Don't water all over with a hose pipe, because that can help spread the fungal powder or the fungal disease. So if you've got the opportunity to do so, water box at the bottom. And finally, when I prune this, I won't be pruning a flat top, and I won't be pruning a concave top. I will be pruning a convex top, so that will encourage the water to run off, so there's no damp sitting on this. So I get on with pruning it now, and I'll do the pruning. I'll film it all, but I'll do it all in fast forward, and I'll do some before and after shots at the end of this video so that you can get to see what it looks like when it's been pruned. And I've got a little bit of weed fabric here which I will use to collect and dispose of all the cuttings that come off. Hopefully, when this is done, this will be a much neater part of the garden. When I was planning and preparing this parterre, I deliberately did it in a breezy area of the garden, so we've got ventilation coming through all the time. Right, let's get on with it. Hope you enjoy this. I'll see you on the other side. These are available in my Amazon storefront, and I do appreciate it if you have a look at my Amazon storefront. It's got all my gardening products in it. Anything you buy results in a commission, which goes straight back into the garden. Let's get trimming. So that was a relatively quick job. I think the biggest part of the job is going to be making sure I pick as much of the waste up as possible. I'm using a rake. I decided to abandon my idea of laying a sheet down quite early on because it was just too fiddly. There's just too many gaps in there and around this parterre. Some other things I learned was when you're cutting the edges, cut them out a bit so that there's a broader base that the light can get to it then, and it will grow more better from the bottom. And also I did find a few patches of my buxus which were quite yellowy colour. Now I've had people say to me, oh, you've got box blight because your box is going yellow. Not the case. Don't panic if you suddenly see yellow areas on your buxus. It's probably not box blight, it's probably just in need of some food. And buxus likes a high potash feed, potassium. Think potash, potassium. I'll put a link to a boxwood feed in the description box below this video. Now, if you are worried about boxwood caterpillar or box blight and you want a parterre, the RHS has created a fact sheet on alternatives to box. In other words, plants that can be used which form a small, compact, dense hedge, but which are not susceptible to the diseases box blight and box tree caterpillar. So I'll put a link to that fact sheet again in the description box below this video. I'm going to continue tidying up. It's not very defined, but it's a lot tidier. I didn't want it to be defined for the reasons I've already given you, but I did want it to be tidier. Now that it is tidier, air will circulate better. What you've got to remember when you prune anything is you're actually damaging and injuring the plant. So I have done a lot of damage and a lot of injury to this plant. Ultimately, it's going to benefit with fresh growth, but what I'm going to now do is I'm going to get some slow release food and feed it all around the base of all of these plants. And then when the rain eventually comes in a few days' time, probably tomorrow, knowing the UK weather, that will start to dissolve and seep down and feed the roots of this plant. Hope that's been interesting and enjoyable. I'll see you soon for some more formal parterre adventures. And don't forget to check out my Amazon storefront. Thank you. Bye for now.